Hello, welcome to Route 99. This is DPM 105. We're solving an RC today. The RC goes like this. The idea that ghosts, vampires, zombies, and other undead entities actually exist may sound silly to many of us in Western society. Okay, so the idea of these supernatural beings, these fictional beings existing, may sound a little silly to us, silly to people in Western society. However, the concept of the undead is very real and serves as an important thentological symbol in a large number of cultures. But on the contrary, the concept of these undead entities is very important, and it is a thentological symbol in many cultures. Most humans feel the need to know that there is something after death. Okay, culture construct variations on the concept of undead in their attempt to help individual understand death and the existence that is known as the afterlife. So people are curious about what happens after life, and each culture has a different way of answering that question, right? That give rise to these different entities. Some believes in ghosts, others believe in vampire, some in zombies, and some in undead and some other undead entities. Culture create animated, corporeal, incorporeal, undead entities to help describe the process of death as well as hoped for outcome results of death. Right. So different cultures create different figures to explain the process of death. Right. Both benign and malevolent undead function to aid humans in understanding the physical and spiritual aspect of death. So use both benign and malevolent undead function to help human understand the afterlife. What happens after death? Benign animated ghosts and the tangible animated undead are important only when there is a dichotomous relationship partnership with malevolent undead. So these ghosts are only useful when there is a dichotomous, just the opposite. Dichotomous isn't like putting two paradoxical things together. So these benign animated ghosts are only useful when there is malevolent bad ghost, right? And they represent a dichotomous relationship between the two. Humans need the malevolent undead to explain things they do not understand and to take the blame for misfortune, right? We need bad ghosts, we need bad undead. Why? To explain people why something bad has happened. We need someone to take the blame for the misfortune, right? So for that we need malevolent undead. The existence of malevolent undead provides a way for members of a culture to explain the unexpected death of loved ones or to blame something outside themselves when bad things befall an individual or a group. तो ये बैड घोस्ट क्यों एग्जिस्ट करते हैं? द एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ दीज malevolent undead, these bad undead is a way to explain the unexpected death of a loved one, right? Or it act as a target which can be blamed if something bad has happened to someone, which is really difficult to explain. Anthropologists examine the concept of undead across four subfields: linguistic anthropology, cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, and archaeology. Right? So there are four subfields in archaeology which examines the concept of ghost, undead. Right? These are the four subfields. Right? Most cultures have linguistic terms for corporeal and incorporeal representations of the undead, as evidenced by the numerous names for vampires throughout the world mentioned above. Right. So most cultures have different names. They make use of linguistic anthropology to describe these undeads. Like we have seen here, they have different names for different. They have different names for undead in different cultures. So that is linguistic anthropology. Often the terms by which undead entities are known in a culture are specific to that culture, and it's a way of relating to the dead. So most of the time these names given to these undead entities are exclusive to the entities which have named them. Right. Although the concept of vampires or the undead in general is presented in many cultures, explanation for the existence of the undead, the reason given for why they help or punish the living, and the ways in which members of a society confront the undead and accept, reject, or defeat them are not same cross culturally. So, despite the fact that These undeads are present in all the cultures. The we still don't have answers for why do they think the way they do, right? Like these are uh, Hmm. So these ghosts, these undead entities are present in every culture, but uh, why they exist, why they punish the living, or why they reward them, how someone can confront these entities, accept, reject, or defeat them, that changes cross culturally. The explanation for that something would be different in a culture, and that would be different in some other culture, right? Like in Hindu mythology, people would believe that ghost punishes someone when you do something uh, unscrupulous or in your living life, or you have harmed someone, or he or she has died, and they have returned as these undead entities to take revenge, right? And this is an example of the explanation given in Hindu mythology. This could be different in different cultures. Physical anthropologists find the undead interesting because the examination of taphonomic processes, which includes the study of decomposition of human remains, offers insight into why people in the past have viewed the undead as being in fact alive. Okay, for example, in past people may have viewed the bloating, that is part of the decomposition of a body, as evidence that an undead individual had risen from the grave and feasted on the blood of the living. Right. So why these ghost thing, the undead thing is interesting to physical anthropologists, because they get interesting clues in these undead, right? And they understand why people used to believe that the people who have died are actually in some ways alive. For that, they have given an example. So in the past, the blotting, right, the accumulation of gas in a person's body when he or she has died was a part of the process of decomposition of a body. But people used to associate that with a superstition that the ghost had risen from the grave because it has feasted on the blood of the living, or the movement of maggots in and around a corpse may have made it look as if it were alive, right? Archaeologists and physical anthropologists who are involved in skeletal analysis attempt to understand the actions of past cultures and the responses to the undead by examining human skeletal remains for evidence of certain types of traumas. Right. So these physical anthropologists and archaeologists, they study the skeletons uh, of the people from past cultures, and they look for certain types of traumas in these structures. Cut marks on skull is an evidence of scalping. The absence of a head, hand, or foot is a mark of mutilation. Right? If there's a cut mark on the skull, that's an evidence of scalping. Absence of head, hand, that shows mutilation, which may both serve different purpose. So these are both different types of trauma. Both types of trauma usually inflicted perimortem shed light on culture's belief in necessity of entering the afterworld physically complete. Right? सो ये दोनों ही जो एग्जाम्पल दिए हैं वो शायद इस बात की तरफ सिग्नल करते हैं कि in past cultures people used to believe in entering the afterworld physically complete. Maybe that is why they were mutilated. If one is incomplete, one is denied access. Okay, if one is incomplete, so that is why maybe they used to cut their head, hand, or foot. That is mutilation. That is why they would be denied access. Perimortem scalping, decapitations, and amputations were preemptive strikes against those individuals who might, if they were whole, come back as malevolent spirits. Right? So that was done to maybe bring back people as spirits. Right? So that was the answer, guys. Let's move on to the questions. Okay, question number 1. Which of the following sets of terms best serves as a keyword to the passage? Undead, concept, malevolent undead, reasons, anthropological analysis, archaeologists, and physical anthropologists. Yeah, that pretty much sums up everything. Let's keep this one. Malevolent undead, cultural interpretation. Yeah, that could be different, but starting with malevolent undead, that seems a bit odd. They started with undead in general, and then they went on to explain malevolent undead and benign undead. Right? So this is wrong from the very first word. The belief in undead, okay. Vampire worship, no. Ghost and vampire, afterlife, physical anthropologist, archaeologist interpretation of trauma. Was this all about archaeological interpretation of trauma, or was it about physical anthropology? Right? And not specifically about this thing. Apart from that, this directly jumped into physical anthropologist and it has missed many points which are correctly mentioned in option number 1, and that is why that is my correct option. All of the following cannot be inferred about the relevance of benign animated ghosts except, okay, it cannot be inferred except, that does mean we are looking for something which can be inferred about benign animated ghosts. The concept of benign animated ghosts is largely irrelevant in most cultures and is basically just an thentological symbol that is prevalent across the world. Has author ever said that it is irrelevant in most cultures or it is just a thentological symbol? Right? Author has said that about this being a thentological symbol about undead in general and not just about benign ghosts. Right? So this is wrong. It is only the benign ghosts that help and aid humanity comprehend the material and spiritual aspect of death and all its related aspects including the afterlife. Is that so? Does malevolent ghost does not answer the question of what happens after life? No, so this is also wrong. Only when there is a dichotomous relationship or alliance with the evil undead do benign animated ghosts and the corporeal animated undead matter. Yes, this is given in the passage that only when there is a dichotomous relationship these ghosts are relevant. Only when there is a malevolent ghost these ghosts make sense. Right, so this seems like my correct option. People need the idea of benign animated ghosts to accept the responsibility for their misfortune, to explain things they do not understand and blame external forces. Okay. Do they need it to accept the responsibility for their misfortune, or they need someone to blame their misfortune upon someone? It was not to accept the responsibility, so this is also wrong. Hence 3 is my correct option. None of the following can be inferred from the passage except. None of the following can be inferred except. So we are looking for something which can be inferred. All beliefs in the undead are essentially superstitions which at their core represent a universal fear of the dead. Okay, is that so? Does it represent the universal fear of the dead, or is it a cultural explanation of what happens after life? The majority of the cultures have different words for depiction of the undead that are specific to their culture. Okay, these depend largely on how that particular culture associate with that. Could be it. This is true that different cultures have different word and depiction for undead which is exclusive to their culture. This is given in the passage, and that is depend on how particular culture associate with the dead. True, this seems like my correct option. Living people try to confront and overcome their own anxieties of death by using both good and evil undead creation to elicit and control. Are they trying to elicit and control human response, albeit unsuccessfully? Are they trying to control human response? No. The malevolent undead are present in most cultures, okay, but they are not as crucial as the benign undead. Is that so? The author has said that they both serve as a dichotomous relationship. One is just as important as the other. So this is also wrong. Hence 2 is my correct option. Last question. All of the following, if true, would support the observation of physical anthropologists and archaeologists, except what did physical anthropologists and archaeologists discovered? They discovered that there are signs of mutilation and amputation. Right, some marks, etc., on these bodies. That shows that people used to cut or amputate some people who they feared would come again as malevolent spirits. Among historic Navajo culture, use of the bones of an evil enemy in utilitarian ceremonial ways served as a mean to ward off the return as a malevolent undead. This is in support with what the author was trying to say. Yeah, this exactly is my answer. This says that in these ceremonies, to ward off the return as malevolent bad spirit, they were using the bones of an evil army. So, no, they using the bone is not the concept. Like if they would have mutilated the bone, they would have done something to the bone, they would have taken a part of it. That would have shown support to the author's observation. But this is not doing that. In a scenario where a body was exhumed and inspected for known vampire symptoms, the natural process of decomposition fueled the populace belief in evil spirits. Okay, no, this is outright wrong. Decapitation and scalping were used as preventive deterrent among prehistoric Native American against evil foes who, once killed, may reappear as the undead. Okay, could be. The influence of the undead can be seen in ways some people dress, adorn themselves cosmetically after their death, listen to music, drink alcohol, and worship. This is so completely irrelevant. But this third, if you see, is completely in line with the argument made in the passage, and this is my correct option. So that was the video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.